Hello, Angela.
Hello.
Welcome to the Instagram Live. Just getting started. Waiting for everyone to join us. Hey, y'all.
Hi.
Howdy,
Hi, everyone.
Can y'all hear us okay?
Hello.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you hear
I can
me
hear
okay?
everybody.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we're going to
Okay,
get
I'm
started.
for it.
Thank you, Jake. Jake, you want to introduce
Sure.
yourself real
So my
quick?
name's Jake. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm part of the communications team with Love is Respect and the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So I'll be just kind of hanging out while Angela, who will introduce themselves, is going to facilitate the conversation, and I'll keep an eye on the chat in case any questions pop up. But I will turn it over to you, Angela.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited that we're here. This is our very last IG Live series for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, but there will be a lot more in the future. First thing I want to acknowledge, not only is it the last day of TDVAM, which is what we use in acronym for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, but it's also the last day of Black History Month, right? So really thinking about that and really seeing the movements that are happening, the excitement that's happening, to be able to have a voice, to be able to have challenging conversations, to be able to talk in a positive way always excites me. So our first IG Live was about engagement, right? How can you be a bystander or upstander? What does that look like for young people to support their peers and their friends? And then our second IG Live was about, it was education, but we were talking about sex, right? Young people want to talk about sex, but sometimes older adults get really, really uncomfortable with it. And then today we're going to be talking about being about empowerment and what that looks like in a little specific way, right? So I got my notes too, y'all. I don't want to make sure I don't miss anything. First, I want to give an opportunity for our participants to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Megan.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan. I use she, they pronouns. I've been a part of the Love is Respect Youth Council since its inception in 2020, which is crazy to think that already 3 years have gone by. Kind of wild. I've had the pleasure of working with Jake and Angela over the past few years, so excited to be here and just share space with everybody and talk about this important subject. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Next. We got an advisory group member on here. Can you move over so we can see more than your eyes? There you go.
How you doing? My name is Lucky Alexander. I am the founder and CEO of Invisible Men, an organization that supports trans-masculine folks across the nation and across the world. And this is
special treat. Who's there with you? That's your mom?
Yeah, hi. I'm Lucky's mom, and I am she, her, hers, advocate, ally, instigator. I'm also the president CEO of 1111 Mind, Body, and Soul Healing, LLC.
And do you have a name?
Wow.
Oh, my name is Sherry. Thank you.
Look at the son trying to be the parent. Yeah, that's what happens when we go live. Anything can happen, right? So I'm really excited to share space with you all and really talk about a few things that I think connects to empowerment, but also from a community that needs to be uplifted, right? The LGBTQ, plus community. I know it's IA, but I just said plus. My tongue got twisted. I was like, wow. I like to have fun. But listen, y'all, the dictionary defines empowerment as like the process of becoming stronger and more confident, right? Especially in one's life. So I think this is appropriate. So I'm gonna start off, and I think I'm gonna start with Megan. Megan, how can parents of, wait a minute, I got my notes, of the LGBTQIA plus community, youth, well, of the LGBTQ plus youth, empower and inspire their kids to have safe and healthy relationships?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think it all starts with the fact that you may not know that your kid is a part of the LGBTQ plus community. And so I think that, you know, as you're parenting, even from a young age with all of your children, um, using inclusive language when you're talking about relationships, using inclusive language when you're talking about friendships and those kinds of things as well, just acknowledging that maybe your child is a part of the community and you just don't know it yet. Not relying on them to have to come out in order to receive advice and direction and support. I think that's very important. So just educating yourself as a parent or as a mentor of youth, and trying your best to use inclusive language. And if you are already talking about romantic relationships, maybe you are having the sex talk or something along those lines, just using inclusive language and educating about all kinds of relationships can really empower people from the start, who are a part of the community, to have that knowledge from a really young age. And then also, I think just not projecting fear onto your children. I think that a lot of times, in older generations, there is some internalized homophobia that people experience, or maybe some behavior towards the LGBTQIA plus community. And so really working as a parent only to project joy onto your children and not to project fear. Because if somebody is taught to be afraid of who they are as a person or the relationship that they're engaging in, it's really difficult to come forward and ask for support, help, and guidance. And so it's easy when somebody comes out or expresses their sexuality to immediately be like, oh, I'm scared of how other people will treat you. But even language like that teach kids or youth that who they are is something to be afraid of, or somebody who might be attacked in the future. So just really taking that into consideration. And of course, sometimes that language comes from a really good place in people's hearts, but just trying to be mindful of that and not use your language when talking to your child about their identity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the key words I took from what you just said was inclusiveness and be mindful of the language, right? I mean, you said so much more, but that's what just stuck with me. So I would like to ask that same question to Lucky.
I think with respect to parents, like supporting their children, allowing that space for them to just be, right, and not putting boxes or putting expectations on how they should perform whatever gender they decide that they want to stand in, and just allowing them to express themselves and you know, in the most safest ways possible, but also giving them that room to just be a person.
Yeah. Wow, that was so deep. Just be a, you know, in my coming out phase, like it was so hard. I thought, you know, I grew up in a real strict Baptist family, so they was like, you going straight to hell, do not pass go. So I had so much fear at such a young age. And Sherry, I would love to hear from a parent's perspective. And I can repeat the question, you know, how can parents of the LGBTQIA plus community empower their kids to have safe and healthy relationships?
Well, to start off, I think as parents, we need to understand who we are in that relationship with that child. It has to be true. As parents, we love our children above their imagination. We love their little hands and their little feet. And that comes from a place of love. That comes from a place of truth. But we have to realize, too, that those little feet that we kiss on and rub lotion on, they get big. And when those little feet can stand that whole person on their own, along comes the decision making, okay? We need to understand to release the holding on. We take ownership of our children. We want them to have a certain thing. We have a dream for our kids, but at some point we have to pull back and stop resisting their dream and let their dream come in. We have to pull back and let them self-actualize. Their journey is what they experience. Okay. So when they experience what they experience and they come to you and go, Mom, I need to talk to you and I need you to listen. Okay. And this was about the third time that we tried that connection. But at some point, the experience that he went through, now he can explain to me in such a way that I'm going to understand in the mom language. But we have to let go of the holding on and let those 2 feet, if you're a good parent, you show them how to stand in their own power and take authority over their life.
Wow. 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 I totally agree. That's just like, wow. Audience, are you listening to this? This is from a parent. Now, let me tell you something. Let's switch it a little bit. So how do you feel this may look different than supporting the LGBTQIA plus community, you know, outside of the community? How would this look different? And Megan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's differences because with any underserved or marginalized population, there's going to be additional barriers or resources that that individual needs. But I think that in order to kind of start minimizing those barriers, it's important to maybe parent and treat all kids equally and the same. I think the idea that LGBTQI plus youth have to come out is even an outdated, form of an outdated thing that people are starting to push back against and ask, why do we have to come out? Why doesn't everybody have to come out? And so I think that, yes, while there are additional barriers and resources that might be needed, I think that, in all honesty, I think it's important for parents to treat all children and all people equally, just to model that behavior. You're not any different than anybody else. Your relationship is valid and it's normal and it's good and it's beautiful and there's nothing wrong with your love or who you are. And so I think that, providing additional support where needed for LGBTQ youth, but treating all people the same.
I love that. I love that. And it goes back to that dictionary definition about, feeling strong and confident, right? In who you are, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're working, whether you're not, whether you're an immigrant, whether you're Black, whether you're white, just being, there's so much power in just being, the true value is in being yourself. I love that. I love that. Jay, did you want to say anything on that question?
I'm really just here listening, and I think that's really great. And I think that's an important part of supporting people as they're kind of figuring out themselves is listening. Like Sherry said, just Lucky came up and said, please listen to me. I need to talk. And so I think just sitting there and listening is really important. So yeah, I think that's a really crucial piece of advice. So that's really helpful.
I agree. So now I want to direct this question. How y'all feeling? Y'all feeling good? That vibe good? I got y'all feeling comfortable? Awesome. So now I want to direct this question to Lucky and Megan. And Lucky, you go first. Are there any barriers you have faced in terms of your gender identity or sexual orientation when navigating healthy relationships or when recognizing, like the young people like to say, toxic behaviors in your relationship?
As I started to come into my own and understanding who I was as a person and also transitioning at the same time, and I know that early in my transition, I just wanted to be loved. So looking for relationships and looking for healthy relationships wasn't a priority. It just wanted to be with somebody that wanted to be with me. And so as I've grown and as I have evolved in my personhood, I think that I've learned red flags. I've learned all of those different pieces that come with relationships in general with people. But as a trans person, disclosure comes into play, discrimination, harassment, all of those things come into play. So being able to pick and choose folks that I think are going to work well with not only my personality, but, you know, as a goal of being together, cohabitating, and just being in relationship with other people. It's been difficult sometimes to kind of field and kind of sift through people that are not going to cause harm, right? And so understanding that some people may be in your corner just because you're doing something fantastic and they want to ride those coattails, and that's why they're in a relationship with you, but also understanding that that comes with any relationship, and safety is a huge factor when it comes to relationships. I mean, not only psychological safety, but like physical safety. So all of those things, and understanding that abuse is not healthy was one thing that I had to learn by fire.
Yeah. Redefining, right? Because as kids, you know, did we really have good examples around us of what healthy relationships was? Some of us may have, but a lot of us may have not. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And you know, that's an important thing. It's all about safety, emotional safety, as well as physical safety. So when we're really thinking about what that looks like in a healthy relationship, paying attention to the warning signs, understanding the warning signs, understanding how to set boundaries, because boundaries are yours to build. Megan?
Yeah, I think that, of course, historically, there's been an issue with just representation for LGBTQ plus people in media or in pop culture, and it's just difficult to model behavior that you don't see. And so for, you know, heterosexual relationships, or just the fact that culture tends to be pretty heteronormative, I think that straight people definitely have more positive models to look at, and I think that's really important. I think as culture has started changing, LGBTQIA plus people are starting to kind of get that, which is really important, but historically that just hasn't been the case. So I think that's a huge barrier. I think for youth specifically, not necessarily having the language to put to certain toxic behaviors. I know that in one of my first relationships with an just not knowing what emotional abuse was, or not knowing that that was valid or a real form of abuse, I didn't really recognize that until after the relationship was over. And so just having language to put towards things is always a barrier, I think, for people who are maybe younger or just, you know, don't have the education or resources that they need. And I think another barrier is just that education. You know, just because in the domestic violence movement so far, it has been pretty heteronormative, and you kind of have just been educated that one type of relationship is the relationship you're going to experience abuse in. So again, just having those tools and education as an LGBTQIA plus person and being able to see yourself in resources is also as important and valid as seeing yourself in positive role models and behaviors.
Yeah, I don't think I need to even say anything after that. I mean, you summed it up very nicely. But you know, I too had an experience like that. Like my first relationship, real relationship, even though I experienced emotional abuse like between 16 and 19, I didn't really know what it was. And when I started working at the National Domestic Violence Hotline and heard the term, and Megan, you know, I've shared this with you, heard the term gaslighting, I felt so validated because I thought I was crazy. You know, I was second guessing myself. Like, maybe I should have did this. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. No, when you got to put maybe in front of it, no. We're going to empower each other to be confident, stronger, and be who we are in a healthy way. Okay, next question. When you were younger and working to understand your gender identity and sexual orientation, were there any steps taken by adults in your life that felt supportive and inspiring to you? Or if the adults in your life weren't supportive, what do you have wished they had done?
So does that mean?
Lucky.
So as a kid, you know, with my mom right here, I didn't have that kind of support. But what I understand now is that my mom didn't have the language, nor did she know what she was looking at, right? So I also have to take that into consideration as an adult now. So I think that as an adult, I wish that there were resources for our parents. There were resources for the adults that are in our lives. I wish that there were ways that they could tap in like there are now, to be able to educate themselves on what they're looking at and understand what they're looking at. I wish that there were resources for me as an individual, that there were reflections that I could look at and say, you know, I'm okay because there are other people like me in the world, right? I definitely wish that there was more language around what it looked like to be trans at that time. And you know, like I'm 42, so, you know, there was quite a bit, a long ways away. So when we're talking about when I started to transition, or when I came into like realizing that I was different, I was 8. And so when I started to really verbalize those things, Mom didn't know what she was looking at. You know, and she's like, well, you know, I was like, well, the kids at school are calling me a boy. And she's like, well, calling me a girl. And she's like, well, you are a girl. You know, and it was just, that was traditional, that was run-of-the-mill parenting right then, right? And they didn't have the same kind of language that we have now. So that's definitely what I wish was in existence.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. It's important. You know, storytelling is so powerful. And it's not even a story, it's our truth. Megan, I want to ask you the same question.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think I kind of, similarly to Lucky, kind of fall on the tail end of that question, where maybe I don't necessarily come from a supportive background when it comes to identity and sexuality, those kinds of things. Something that I've had to kind of come to terms with and realize is obviously sexuality is a really important part of my identity. But where I had to kind of learn about my family and about their background is that sometimes with cultural or religious identity, they might feel like they're having to give up a piece of themselves to accept you. And I recognize that that can be really difficult. But I think what I would say to any parent or advocate call or on the live is that just take into consideration that the person who's coming out, the person who's expressing their sexuality, has spent a lot of time having to look inside themselves and look at additional resources in order to come to that conclusion of maybe I'm not straight, maybe I'm not, don't fall into gender binary. And so they've really had to put in the work in order to come to that place. And so it's only fair of them to expect the same of you. So you can come to terms with your new identity as a supported person. And yes, that's going to take time. Energy, but just know that you owe the person that much because they've done the same in their own life and own experience. I think just another thing would be, don't use your child or the person who's coming out to you as a dictionary during that learning process and that time you are coming to terms with it. There's so many resources available. Love is Respect, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, so many resources that you can turn to learn about unhealthy relationships, the Trevor Project, to learn more about LGBTQIA plus folks. There's so many resources out there. You should not have to use your child as a dictionary and expect them to come to you with all the answers. And so it's just super important to keep that in mind and create a safe space for them by putting in the work and not looking at them for all the answers. You have to find that within yourself.
Can I add something to what they just said? Also Please understanding do. That when your child comes out to you, not using them as a dictionary or as an encyclopedia, because they're still figuring it out. They know who they are. They don't know who the world is just yet, but they know who they are. So while they're still figuring it out, they don't have all the answers either.
Yeah. So powerful, so powerful. And just like, I don't know if Lucky or Sherry, if you've had the experience of certain individuals trying to get us to, as African Americans, kind of, be a dictionary and help them to understand, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. That's a different topic.
That's a whole nother conversation.
But you get what I'm saying. It all ties in, right? So, Sherry, I see you as a parent who has experience supporting your own child. What have you learned, or how has your knowledge and your understanding grown?
can say this. When
Take your time.
Lucky and I had that talk, a lot was clarified for me because we had off and on had the conversation. We talked, what, 4 hours? 8 hours? We talked just about the whole day, but the clarity, the understanding, his perspective, where he was coming from, showed me a lot of things that, because of going back to what Megan said, generational thought in our culture was taboo. For me, having that conversation with him, I got my kid back. That personality that left for so long came back, and I went, oh, wait a minute, I know you. I remember you. You're showing up right now. Okay, let's go there. So for me, what Alex recognized was that his journey was a journey for me. Learning pronouns. What happened to the name that I picked out for what? Okay, so all of that changed, but now because of how deep he went, he trusted me with his truth, and how I treated that truth gave me the understanding that I needed as a parent to go, okay, we got this. Let's do one more step. Okay, so tell me about this, and then tell me about that. And the kid that I pushed away showed up and went, I got an answer for you. You keep on asking me questions. So that's what I learned. And I love you.
I love it too.
So us being able to sit here like this is what I got of putting in the effort for my kid, the one that I kissed those little tiny feet, the one that I said, I love you above your imagination. Help us to now love each other in such a way where there were no barriers, because the truth was going back and forth between us. So I've learned a lot about my child, about what the bravery and the courage that he went through to say, I'm this. I am Lucky Alexander. And didn't I give you a birth certificate that had an extra couple of names in there? I don't know. At least I didn't know, but he took it and he says, I love you, Mom, and I love you too. So I learned a lot about myself, that generational thought does not guide my heart space. It does not guide my footsteps. It guides something in the past. We can now have an honest conversation, and the steps that he takes, we take together.
Wow. You know, one of my favorite sayings and one of my handles on social media is, what if love was the question and the answer, right? There wouldn't be racism. There wouldn't be all this hate, you know, because if it's the question, then we got to ask ourselves, love. If it's the answer, our actions is going to show love. But you know, everything's a journey. But this is a direct result, what you just shared, of healthy communication, right? Opening your mind to new ideas, right? And appreciating the fact that you raised someone, you instilled that seed to be strong and confident. Goes back to that definition, and believe in oneself. Wow, I could go on forever, but I don't know if our viewers want us to stay here this long. So one final question. What do y'all think, viewers? Give me a thumbs up. Do y'all want me to ask one more question? I feel like I want to feel y'all presence too. Just one more. All right, I'm going to do it. But I didn't see no thumbs up, but I'm going to do it. And we're going to end this with Megan and Lucky. How do you feel teens and young adults may be able to empower those around them if they are considering transitioning or struggling with their gender identity? And whoever want to go first. And let me know if you want me to ask the question. We're going to go out in style. I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you feel teens and young adults may be able to empower those around them, whether that's friends, peers, if they are considering transitioning or even just struggling with their gender identity?
Megan, you want to You want to go first? Okay.
Yeah, I can definitely go. Yeah, so I think that for me personally, my partner is non-binary, so they fall under the transgender umbrella, so to speak. And so they were actually the first non-binary person that I ever met. And so I found it really interesting as somebody who comes from a lived experience in the LGBTQI plus community that, you know, when I first met them, I really struggled with pronouns and with learning more about their identity. And I think that was really humbling for me as a partner, but also as an advocate for the community, realizing that I needed to be humble and to recognize that just because I have lived experience, I still don't know everything. And I still have opportunities to continue learning and processing and, you know, learning about new identities and new things. And culture and language are always changing, and that's a good thing. We should all be able to adapt to that. And so I think what I found really, you know, challenging during that time is that I didn't quote unquote get it. I didn't understand it fully. And I was just waiting until I quote unquote got it or understood to start showing support verbally and emotionally for their transition. And I think what I learned through that process was I had to stop waiting until I quote unquote got it. And I just needed to start showing support because I was projecting my lack of education, my lack of understanding and resources onto them during a time where they just needed to be loved and supported. And so I think I just learned a lot through that process. And then once I was able to come to terms with things and able to really grapple with that on my own and come to terms with it, I think what I then found was the cycle that some of us get stuck in sometimes when we're asking people, oh, well, just let me know how I can help, you know, like during the transition process, instead of listening and observing and being very active in setting up a GoFundMe for top surgery, things like that. I didn't wait around for them to be like, this is what I need. I didn't get stuck in that cycle of just let me know when you need help. Just let me know when you need something from me. I tried to be very active in recognizing where there were gaps in support for them and love and just filling those without necessarily having to ask. So I think it's all about observing and just being willing to step in when you're needed, even if somebody isn't asking that of you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I witnessed some of these things that you're talking about firsthand. So yeah, that's awesome, Megan. You're an amazing individual. Don't you ever forget it.
Well, for me, I think that beyond everything that Megan pointed out, like those are great suggestions. I think also just holding space for your friends, being there. Like if they come out to you, or regardless of whether it's friends, family, whether it's partner, just holding space. And sometimes we just need a sounding board, right? We just need someone to say, okay, I get that, right? Even if you don't get it, sometimes you just need that ear to kind of lean into. But I think also for folks that, like Megan was saying earlier, don't have the skill set or don't have that knowledge, right? Do the research, find out what resources are available, and make sure that those resources are available for those folks. Know that there are several organizations, there are several different types of resources for different types of folks. Knowing what those resources are and being able to refer those folks over, or, you know, sometimes it takes just being in the space when they go to access resources. So, you know, if you got a friend and they're going to access an LGBT center, or they're going to access an APLA or any of these other organizations, being in the space with them and holding their hand sometimes can be that support that they need. And just going again along the lines of what Megan said, sometimes folks don't know what they need. When you say, you know, let me know if you need anything, they may not know what they need. So kind of stepping into that space to say, hey, look, I'm just checking on you. How you doing today? Because a lot of our strongest folks in our circles are the ones that are suffering the most. So just checking in on folks to see how you doing, how you feeling. Especially if they just came out, maybe they just came out to their parents, or just came out to folks that maybe don't feel the same way or are not as supportive. They're going to need that support in that moment. It's going to be very vital for them to have that support, or for somebody to say, it's okay, I got you. So a lot of times as friends, as family, as partners, we're in those intimate spaces where we can't be that hug. We can't be that embrace that someone may need after a rejection.
Wow. Audience, I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation. I think that it was needed. I think that it was needed. I think that each of the participants played a vital role in providing perspective from their own experience, right? That's what makes it so powerful. Before I end, Cherie, I just want to give you, Sherry, I'm so sorry, 1 minute. Is there anything else you want to add? And if not, please, no pressure, but I definitely want to acknowledge you and thank you for being that parent that shares space with us.
Being on this side of the chair of Lucky, I would say to parents, like before, we have a goal when we have these babies. We have a goal. Let their goal be their goal. Your goal is your goal, okay? Don't resist their goal in favor of your goal. Listen with love from here to everything. It's pertinent to their set of eyes. Their set of eyes deserves the same kind of respect you give to someone else. Just because they're your child and you've done all of these things, let them be who they are. Do not resist your own upbringing that you put in them, that power that you gave to them. Stop resisting that and let them stand in it and go, I love you for who you are right here, right now, in this moment in time, and let it be that. That's it, that's all.
That's it. I love it. And just to piggyback off what Megan said, providing parents and older adults some grace, because we're figuring it out, right? But also, we don't have to be a victim. We don't have to be a victim of abuse because the resources are out there. Do the research, get the education, and be there for your loved ones. Thank you so much, all of you.
Angela.
Love is Respect is here 24/7 for anyone. Our targeted audience is age 13 to 26. Our secondary audience is older adults, helpers, whether that's educators, parents, older siblings, coaches, community leaders. We're here for everyone. What I would like to say is, if you or someone you know is experiencing dating abuse, or maybe they just have a question, y'all. Maybe they're not sure. Maybe you just have a question if your relationship is healthy. Please reach out to loveisrespect.org. All the information is there. I do know that young people love to text and chat. So if you want to text, you can text to love is, one word, 22522. The conversation doesn't stop here. Our theme is be about it. Please share this video. Please keep supporting us. And also stay tuned because more is to come in the months ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Y'all take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.